Okay, here is that option I was telling, you should get an option to launch the console. That is actually another plugin. So first time when you work on the VMware vSphere web client, you go to do two things. First thing is a flash player, and then when you want to open the console of a VM, you have to install another plugin. So those two are very important to do that. Okay, so you don't have the rights on that server, and that's why I was telling. So it looks like this Firefox already has the plugin, so we don't need to do that. But for IE, definitely we have to do that. So this is actually a beautiful interface. It's much more bigger. I'll show you when I go to the full screen. You can see that it is going to come up as huge. So if I use, this is the normal screen. If I go to full screen, you can see your computer completely here. I'm seeing the slowness and all that is just because of the fact that you can see that the whole screen is now my VM. This is that vCenter 5. You can see that the whole screen is being populated. It is a little slow here because I'm using a wireless connection. All things are slow, but believe me, in my office I'm seeing very, very good performance with vSphere web client, and it's just like you're working on an original computer. You see that the entire screen is being populated with that vCenter 5. This is that VM we are talking about. Okay. So when you use, this is what I want to tell you. Please use Firefox when working on it. Okay, please use Firefox. IE is not going to work, so everything is installed there. If you use Firefox, when you log into your 68.128.181 PC, you should be able to run vSphere web client. I know Gene was mentioning that he was not able to run, so that should be the case with everybody else. Okay, so I'm logging off. Let us move on. Before I move in, let me share. I'll make Sujan. I'm making you as the presenter show your problem. Okay. So now you are the presenter. We are all going to see your screen. Explain what is your problem. I can spend 5 minutes to that. Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. Now you can see my screen, right?
I can. Yes.
Okay. So what's wrong is this is my. So this is the problem. This is my things. vCenters, right? These are the problem. These are like disconnected. So and
what
I have like
this is your home PC?
No, never.
What ESX server is that?
This 5.1, the new one.
No, this is in your house?
Yeah, it's in my house. Yeah.
So you have a DL360 G5 servers?
Yeah. Just 4
How
or
many
5
servers
days.
you have?
No, 4 or 5 days only. I buy from this thing, eBay. It's like $242.
Okay.
So and this is
Okay. Can I get a control? Can you give me control?
All right. So it is on.
So what is that 192? What is this server? Whose office is this?
This one.
So how many servers you got?
Yeah, I have just one only.
So this is another server?
No, this is like this thing. What do you call it? Main VM, right? This is main VM. And this is vCenter.
This is the ESX server. And where is your vCenter?
This is my vCenter, yeah. Here is. This is control.
Okay, hold on. Don't do anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Give me the control. Okay, I have.
It was working perfectly because I this evening only, today only, I try to remove this. I mean, I try to edge the things, and it becomes like this. Having problem.
Yeah. Now it is connected.
No, it will come. It will only after some time. It will go like that. Then disconnect it.
After some time, it gets disconnected.
Yeah, it is disconnected. Yeah.
Maybe you should disconnect from the other box. I don't see a reason to disconnect here. It is connected now.
Yeah, now it's connected. After some time, it will automatically
You
disconnect.
got to make sure that Vcenter, your firewalls are disabled and things like that. Otherwise, there should not be a reason why it should be disconnected. This is now working fine. I don't see any reason. If you disconnect, we'll look into it. But it's working. But this see what is this machine? What operating system is this?
This one to the R2.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's
This is the
fine.
one. Yeah, it's gone offline.
Okay, it went off. Okay.
That was remove one before I created that one and
This is the virtual center.
yeah, this is the virtual server.
Okay, connect to virtual login.
People, let's start the class, then we'll debug this later, I think.
Where is
Welcome to GoToMeeting, online meetings made easy. There are 9 other callers on the call. Welcome to GoToMeeting, online meetings made easy. There are 9 other callers on the call.
I did lots of time this one, so the 12 IP is giving problem because this, I was looking for that registry where it's written that 12 IP. It's creating problem with this 12 one.
Okay, that may be creating a problem. So it looks like it was managed by other server. But normally, when you add it to a new vCenter, it should take that vCenter as the primary vCenter. It should get disconnected from the other one.
Yeah.
So it should not be disconnected from here. But now let's see it is disconnecting or not. If it's disconnecting, it could be I don't see any problem. You're using 100 Mbps connection. That's the only thing, but I don't think that should be a problem. You may want to change your switch and put a gigabit switch. 100 Mbps nobody uses nowadays, so you can go to Best Buy and buy one for $20 with at least the 1 GB connection. So this is doing good now.
I'm using the power line switch, so that's what it's connected to. Connection is 100 this thing.
Not disconnecting, but let's see how long it will stay like this. It is working now fine. Oh, okay. Here is the thing. What is okay? That's fine.
This one, yeah, this one is giving problem, I think.
Why are you using IP6?
No, I didn't configure that one.
Okay, now it is good. Now you should be good. I think it was going back and forth between IP6. You configured that. I think that's the thing. So now it should be okay. All right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Let me know if it disconnects during the class, but they can give me okay, I'm taking the control back here. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, guys. So we talked about snapshots yesterday. We tried different options. You saw memory snapshot. You saw other snapshots. What are the different files that are associated with snapshot? When you take snapshots, the files are getting created. When you revert back to a snapshot, you see that the size of the snapshot disk file will be reduced to 0. We saw that when you delete a snapshot, all the changes that were accumulated on the disk file, on the snapshot file, will get returned to the base disk. All lot of things, and you also see how memory snapshots work. Correct. So today, what I'm going to talk about is actually another feature. So every day going forward, probably I'm trying to see whether I can finish off the class. Maybe I may do next week every day class, because I need to stop this also. So next week probably there will be class every day if I'm fit. Most probably I will try to do a class every day. And also definitely next Sunday or Saturday we might have 2 long sessions too. So I think that will be enough to finish, but many things to be covered. Today I'm going to talk about cloning and, if possible, templates. We lost half an hour, but that's fine. You were able to see some troubleshooting, or at least something how to look at it. Today we're going to talk about cloning, templates, and then from Monday onwards we're going to start the clustering. Some of the clustering properties, HA and DR, 2 topics. Definitely I may need 2 days to finish that, and then get on to VM converter, how to do P2V migrations, physical to virtual migrations, update manager, distributed switch, and then some other things. So there is a lot of things still to be covered. So we're going to be more aggressive to finish that. There's a lot to cover. Okay, so here, so give me a machine that see. The first thing is, this is the sad part. There is 4 servers there, but I don't see any operating system. Which one has an operating system? This is Android and this is having operating system. Okay. That's fine, as long as, what's the password? Welcome on. Okay, so this is a VM which is running currently. So cloning, so there are two types of cloning. In a cloning and all, it's all very, what is a clone basically? What do you mean by a clone? Okay, clone is actually an exact copy. That is the thing. It is an exact copy. You know, when you say something you clone, that means every part of it will be same. That is what a clone is. If you are making something very similar to that, that may not be clone. But a cloning is actually, a clone is an exact copy. So you can actually clone VMs. And it can be used for many purposes. Template uses actually cloning. We're going to talk about that later, but first let us talk about cloning. So there are two types of clonings are available. One is called as a hot clone and the other one is cold cloning. The difference between these two are pretty simple. Hot clone means you can clone a virtual machine when the virtual machine is up and running without any service disruption. You can, at the back end, you can make a clone of it. The second option is a cold clone, which is a clone taken from a powered off machine. So now you may be wondering, why do you need two types of clone? What is the advantage? What is the disadvantage? Things like that. So let us say you are cloning an application server or a normal server. You could possibly do a hot clone. There is no problem because there is not much data getting changed. But let us say if it is a domain controller or if it is an Exchange server or a SQL server that has data getting changed every minute. If you clone it, there is a good chance that there will be inconsistency between the data, inconsistency between the tables and things like that. So in that kind of a case, for these kind of special machines, probably you may want to do a cold clone. Now, when can you clone? How can you clone? Why do you want to clone? So typically people clone machines are for troubleshooting purposes. Let's say you have a server that is having a problem. Some problem. You don't know what exactly the problem is. It is showing some error or maybe some registration. Depending on your error, again, that is something you have to make that call. Now you want to troubleshoot that problem, but you don't want to troubleshoot when the real server is working. You know, it could affect the performance and it could affect the business. So what you can do is, at that point, you can basically clone a server, clone that VM, bring up that clone. The clone will have the exact same problem, and then you can work on the clone. But there is a problem with the clone. If you clone it, that clone will have the same MAC address and the same IP address. So if you bring that clone into the network, you know what is going to happen. You're going to have duplicate IP addresses and other issues. So when you bring up a clone, you've got to be very, very careful. And when you're cloning also, you've got to be very careful. After cloning, the server might, you have to be careful where and which network the cloned image is going to come. So it's a good practice to have your network always have an isolated switch. I was talking the other day. In our office and all the VMware ESX servers, we have an isolated switch, and it is always named as isolated without any uplink. So the advantage of having a switch like this is when you clone it, you can bring the clone inside this and you can power it on, because then it is not going to interfere with your actual production servers, because there is no uplink. That means it cannot communicate with the outside world. You can still work on the VM and troubleshoot the problem. That is one good example of clone. Another example, recently we upgraded our Active Directory to 2008 R2. It was 2003 native mode. So we wanted to test how the Active Directory is going to behave when we upgrade it. So what we did is we actually cloned a couple of our servers, including the domain controllers. We brought all of them inside one isolated network. I mean, that was the first test. Then we do other testing and all, but I'm just telling you, initially when I was testing, this is what we did. We created an isolated switch, brought up all that servers there. Now I have an exact copy of my production domain controller here, but that's not a problem. I'm not talking to the outside world. but I have some servers inside. We upgraded the Active Directory within that switch. That means within that isolated world. We tested it. We see there are something is working. At least we saw some results. We may not be able to test everything because you don't have the full network. So those kind of things you can actually take advantage by cloning servers. Let's say you're doing a major upgrade. You are really concerned something might happen. Somewhere you may concerned that it may cause problems to your VM. So before that, maybe you can take a clone. Anyway, so that is what is cloning is. You have to use your intelligence or your sense of idea to what you can use for a clone. But the clone has to be taken based on the thing. So that's what I was about to tell you, Aravind. It looks like it's your problem. Nobody has any problem, and I don't see any problem. My computer is silent actually, so I don't think there is any sound problem from my side. Check your connection, okay? Aravind, you can hear me, right? Guys, anybody else having problem with my voice? Is it breaking? Okay, cool. All right, so that is what cloning is. And now, how do you do cloning? These are all interview questions, not very great things, but interview questions. Cold clone, hot clone. Why do you do that? What are the advantages and things like that? So let's do one thing. Let's do this Raiden's machine. I'm going to clone this machine. So Raiden here, this is the thing. It is a very simple thing. You can do that only when you are in a vCenter. If you are right on the 10.10.97 ESX server, you will not get this option for cloning. You can see that there is an option cloning now. So you click on that. Let's call it as clone underscore Raiden underscore 2K03/1. That's what the name he gave. So I'm just putting it. I can put it in any folder I want. Do I want to put it in financial or in discovered VMs? It's my choice. This is what that folder structure. Remember, in the VMs and templates, we created that folder structure. So you can put your VM right onto that. I can put it in HR servers folder. I can do it, and then you can. Do you want to clone it on the same server, or do you want to clone it on any other server? The clone copy will be created on any of these servers. For easiness, guys, I'm just doing that server here. This alert is something to do with other things. Look at it. We will be looking at alerts later, but I'm just telling you. So I'm selecting that server here. Validation is succeeded. Now it is asking me in which drive I want to create that cloned images. So I'm looking here. I can see that the local storage has 53 GB free space there. So I'm selecting that 53 GB for now. That means this clone is going to be created on that drive. And here comes a certain option. So here there is an option. I will tell you what it is. It is not showing me any customization. We'll talk about the customization. It's an OS problem. You can do some customization. I will talk about what customization is in a minute. After the cloning process, yeah. So this one, right? This is the one, right? No, it didn't matter. It does not matter if you want the same source. So same source means it's asking whether you want to be thick provisioned or thin provisioned. If the disk, I don't know what disk you created. If you are created at thick provisioned, I can make it into into a thin provisioned disk. If you want. Did I talk about thin provision and all? I think I didn't, right? I didn't talk about that, right? Did I talk about the? Okay, I will talk about that today. Okay, just remind me that we have to understand that is important. And yesterday, I think you asked me another question which was related to this. What was that? I know, right? And I told you to. I'll answer later. What was that? Remember? Anyway, these are different format. Remember that? Okay, it was something to do with disk, I believe. All right, so you can select what format you want. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I'm using the same. Right. So we were talking about provisioning. So it was showing provision space 20, but used space was showing only less. So that is exactly what thin provisioning is to do with. All right, we'll talk about that. So I'm using the same format. That means whatever this disk is it thin provisioned or thick provisioned, that same format it is going to do. If you want, you can always change it because it's going to create a whole new disk here. So that's the thing. So I'm selecting the same option, click and finish. So now that's it. It is going to make a clone out of this view. So you can see that it is cloning. You can see that it is already, it might have created, it will be immediately creating that VM here. We can see that it will be creating now at this process. Give it a minute. Here we go. Created that VM. Now if you look at the properties of that VM, you cannot do anything now, but you can see that it has detected all the details and it is actually doing that VM. The process is going pretty fast. So because I selected the same storage, so it is going to complete that process. Let us do that. Now let me go back to this freeze machine and let us do a cloning of that VM also. Okay, I'm going to do a cloning. This is 2003. I want a 2008 machine. See, this is having 2008 OS, right? Cool. Okay, it is already expired. That is not a problem. Let's hit the VMware tools. Okay, it is having VMware tools, and also I'm just going to close this. I'm going to clone this VM also now. This is a big VM. You know, the thing is, when the size is more, it's 42 GB. It is going to take a lot of space, so it may take a long time to finish the process. But what I wanted to show you here is this. So click on the clone button, and again I'm going to call it is clone underscore win 2008 underscore 3 underscore 001. I'm putting it in financials folder. I'm selecting the same host as 95. You can select any host. It doesn't matter if I select another host. The entire files and blocks that it is transferring, the cloning process is doing, has to go over the wire. That's it. Okay, but if you have a real SAN, fiber attached SAN, shared storage, it will be all happening at the array level. It will not go through the wire. So you got to understand that. So what I'm doing right now is hot clone. Yes, the VMs are on and I'm doing the cloning. So you can see that the 2K3 Raiden machine is working. There is absolutely no problem with that VM. That VM is working fine. Okay, I'm doing another one here. So here also I'm selecting that storage, but here I'm selecting thin provision, so that if it is not thin provision, it will take only that required space. I will talk about thin provision in a minute. Here you see, in Windows 2008, actually 2003, you have to put some, you have to basically download what was that called? sysprep. Have you heard about sysprep? Anybody? You know what a sysprep is in Windows world? Right, and you know that about it. You are a Windows guy, right? What is sysprep do? Sally, what does sysprep do?
So sysprep is for creating an image type of a VM in the OS itself. So if it is sysprep, then it will directly install that sysprep image.
That's not correct. Okay, that's not correct. Okay, so if you say that, that is actually bad. So good that I asked. Okay, here's the thing. So every Windows server, when you create or build a Windows server, image and a clone, it's basically no difference. Pretty much both are same. You can use it as the same thing. Image and a clone is same. You know, Yeah, there is no imaging feature in VMware. It's called as clone. You can call image and a clone is same. Yeah. So every Windows server has a unique identifier number. It is called as a SID, security identifier. Okay, it is by default. Microsoft has some algorithms. When you build a Windows server or a Windows VM, XP, XP, or a Windows 7 computer, it gets a unique number, and that unique number is unique. There nobody else will have that number. It is not a big problem in today's world because technology has improved. Microsoft has made some changes. But if you are looking at 4 years back or 5 years back, having duplicate SID in an environment can create a lot of issues, especially with Active Directory operations and all. So you have a computer. Let us say I have a computer called ABC. The name of the computer is ABC. The computer I have a SID. That number is a 16-digit hexadecimal number. It's a complex number. I don't know how it is, but it is a complex number. And when you add that server to the Active Directory domain, it becomes part of your network. But the AD actually registers that machine with that SID number and all. So the Active Directory know, okay, this is the SID of this computer and things like that. So Active Directory do a lot of mapping to that particular SID. So many references are there to that particular SID. That is how the Active Directory know, okay, this is that machine. Active Directory may not be looking at the name you have given to that server, whether it is Windows 2008_3 or ABC or Deepu or not. It does not care. Active Directory always look at that particular unique name or the number which is called as the SID, security identifier. If you know more about Active Directory groups and user accounts and all, every group account and user account has a GUID. It is called as GUID. I mean, I'm not going to get into that. Let us talk about SID. Every group you created in Active Directory has a GUID. That's how Active Directory know that, okay, that is the thing. So that is why in Active Directory or even in a single Windows server, if you create a user called Deepu, that computer or the operating system or the Active Directory give a unique ID identifier to that account, Deepu. And Deepu has a password. And Deepu has been permission to access a folder using some credentials. Fine. Now, listen to me very carefully. Now, let us say Santosh came there and deleted the user account Deepu. And he recreated a new Deepu with the same username, with the same password. Do you think that new user account can access that folder? It cannot be accessed. It cannot access that because it is a different account according to that computer. It is a different ID. That is the same case with Active Directory. If you delete a group and recreate a group, they are two different things. Okay? So don't ever think that you create something else, it is going to be same, it is different. Anyway, that was a different story. Let us keep that aside. I just went on to it, I talked about it. So every computer has a SID. Now, what happens if you clone a computer and put it on the network? Now, you're going to have two SIDs. You're going to have one SID but two computers. Both computers are going, you can rename the computer, you can give it a new IP address, you can do all that shit, that's all fine. And you can put it back into the network. You cloned a computer, you completed the cloning process, you changed that. So if you want to bring it up into the actual network, you have to do a couple of things, right? One is you have to change the IP address. Second, probably you may want to change the name of the computer. And probably some settings, but that's fine. But once you bring it up into the network, there is going to be still a conflict, and that is the security identifier, the SID conflict. How do you change the SID of a computer? Anybody know? Now you need to change. Now you need to give the cloned one a new SID. Then If you can give a new SID to that computer, then you can confidently say, okay, this is a new computer. Even though its the name is same, IP is same, but still you can say, okay, this is a new computer because now it has a new SID. So SID is created by default at the time of building a computer. So changing a SID is not an easy thing. There are tools available, like Sri is saying SID changer. I think there is a tool. I'm not familiar with it, but SysPrep is a tool from Microsoft to change the SID of a computer. Okay, it is not for imaging or anything. It is this product from Microsoft to change the SID. So in old days, when people duplicate computers, especially they take ghost images, and they make multiple. No, SysPrep is actually from Windows NT time period onwards there, Ashley. SysPrep was widely used by me and all in 2000 days, 2000, 2003 time period. SysPrep is still there.
But Windows 2008, they recommend to use SysPrep. They actually removed the other tools which you used to have in Vcenter.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm not familiar. I was using SysPrep all my years. So SysPrep is a tool. You can do that. Yeah, there may be other tools, SID changer and all I know. So that is what SysPrep is. SysPrep is a tool for changing the SID and all those things. So now you are cloning a machine and you want to make multiple copies and you want to distribute it. So let's say you want to build an XP VM with your company's standard build, and now you want to give that to 10 people. You don't have to build 10 XP VMs. You can build one VM, make it 10 copies of it, means 10 clones of it. But before giving it to individual users, you have to make sure that all that 10 machines have the new SID. Then they are all safe. Then change the SID, change the IP, change the name, you do correct this. That's what here it is saying. So there is actually, it is coming here, Windows 2008. The Vcenter already has the SysPrep tool built into it for Windows 2008. So you don't need to do anything. For Windows 2003, you have to download the SysPrep files, put it in a folder and all. I'm not going to get into that thing now. But Windows 2008 SysPrep is already as part of Vcenter. It is there. So you don't need to worry anything about it. You have three options here. Do not customize. If you don't do any customization, the cloned image is going to be an exact clone. But that is not my purpose. I want to make another 2008 server from this image. I want to give it a new name. I want to give it a new IP. I want to give it a new SID. That is my aim. So to do that, I can use this option called Customize using Customization Wizard. When I use that and click Next, the wizard starts. This is the customization wizard. This is exactly like, it's giving the owner's name. I'm saying, okay, Deepu organization. Okay, we can put it as case. It's asking, do you want to give a new name? So what was the name of the clone VM? Anybody remember what was the name I given? Clone underscore Windows 2008 underscore 3. That was the name I given right at the time of cloning, isn't it? If that's a case, you can say use the virtual machine name. So that means the VM's, the guest OS name is going to be that VM's name. It will do it automatically. Or if you want to give a name by yourself, you can give it here. These are options. Or you can use the computer name. It is going to take the VM's name and put it there. Typically, that is what people do because you always wanted your host, the operating system name to be same as the VM name, and I'm doing that here. Here is the license information. If you want, you can do that. Here is the password for the administrator. You want to change it. So I'm going to give it as welcome1 here. This is customization, okay? Cloning has not started. You want to change the time zone? You can change the time zone. I'm going to change this time zone to, let us put it as, Hawaii. The new VM, once this is cloned, you can see that the time is changed to Hawaii. You want to run any commands after the VM come up, you can do that. You can run some batch files and things like that. Coming to the networking, do you want to have an IP address? You can give it an IP address, custom IP address, you can do that. That is one NET card. Currently it is going to use DHCP. If you don't want to use DHCP, you can use static IP address and give all that information so that your new VM, the cloned image, is going to have all this information. I'm not going to do that. I'm saying use DHCP. And do you want it to join a domain? You can do that here. Once the cloned image comes up, it will automatically join the domain and all. I'm not going to do that also either. I'm just leaving it. These are things, you can try. Here is the most important thing. Generate a new SID. This is that process that creates a unique ID for that computer. Do that. Now it is done. Now it is giving me an option. Do you want to save this as a file for future use so that I don't need to give all this? So I'm going to call it as Win 2008 _01. So I'm going to call this customization. Whatever I have done so far, that the company name is dash case, owner name is Deepu, certain other things, the time zone is Hawaii, things like that. So whatever that changes I made, I'm going to save this customization in a place. And I talked about that place yesterday. I will show you here. I'm just saving that. These are the customization we have done. Again, look into it. The owner name is Deepu. The owner organization dash case. The computer name is going to be the virtual machine name. Computer name means operating system name. License mode, maximum connections, administrator password, time zone, network, everything is there. And you click finish. You're done with it and you click finish. The cloning process is starting. The new clone machine is starting. The cloning is done. Now let me take a step back here. Go to the home directory. You can see that there is a tab called Customization Specification Manager. If you go here, you can see that the customization I made is here. This is that customization. If you want, I can actually edit that customization. See, Deepu, use the same thing. Everything is here actually. Whatever I did is there. I can use this customization when I do another mission. That's the whole purpose of it. You can create and import and export this customization for other users. But anyway, we have now gone to customization. We will look into this later. Okay. So that cloning is going on. But meantime, I'm going to bring up this VM which we clone. I didn't do any installation. We didn't do any installation. I'm going to power on this Raidens VM. This is the clone. Let us look at it. This is both of these machines were done as hot clone. Correct? So let us see what is there. I didn't do any installation. See, it's coming up with the operating system. It's coming up with the same name, everything. Here we didn't do sysprep, okay, because it didn't have that sysprep file, that's why. But this is going to be an exact same case. This is a dangerous thing now. What is going to happen now? It could possibly come up with a static IP address. You can see that a duplicate IP address will happen because this VM is in the production network now, along with the other machine. So you can see that this is not good. You should never do that. If you do that in a company when you're working, you will lose your job immediately because now that you clone, and remember this is very, very important because when you go to work, most of the time you will be doing a lot of cloning, you will be doing a lot of conversions, P2P migrations. All this is related to this. Now that you accidentally powered it on, but now what's happening is it's going to create a duplicate IP address. Hey, right, and by the way, are you using the same IP, static IP or a DHCP IP for that? If it was using static IP, you can see now a duplicate IP address message will come up here. Let me see, it is showing up here. See? Look at what is happening. Do you see that? The original VM is saying conflict. That is why I said never ever bring up your cloned image to a isolated network. Okay, now it is find out this is an outage. In an office now there is problem. If that's a major web server, the request will go to different places. If it's a database, you're going to have a major problem. Change this immediately to okay, here there is no network anyway, so we have to create that. So this is another thing we missed. So you should create that isolated network. Let me create one isolated network first. I don't know why you use two network cards. Anyway, I just move that VM to the isolated network. Now you can see that the clone underscore Raiden is in an isolated network and there won't be any IP conflict. Okay? So this is what it is. This is what that IP conf. This is what a hot clone is. So you saw that it is the exact same machine. If you log in, see, you can see that it is the clone. You can log in with the same password. Everything works fine. You know, there is absolutely no problem. This is an exact copy. So you don't have to install anything. This is what a clone is. This is the same machine as what we did. So this is done when the original VM was running, and that is why it was called as a hot clone. In real production, where it is emergency clone record, we can keep under live switch but not power on. Yeah. If you think that's okay, you can do that. If you don't power on, there's no problem. Okay, so that is the hot clone. So cold clone is simple as that. Let me take a simple small virtual machine here. Is there any small virtual machine we can use? I think Ubuntu. Okay, so this is, cold clone is nothing, you know that it is the same stuff, guys. It's just you can do the clone. It is the VMA stuff, so you can give it a name. Clone underscore 001. I'm just giving it a name. You do that. Pick whatever host you want 96 or whatever. Do that. Select your storage, whatever it is. I'm going to go with the thin provisioning here. And here you can do the customization if you want. Do that thing and just do it. It is just the same. I'm not going to do it now because too much stuff will screw up the whole thing. So I'm not going to do it because it's all small environment. But you can do that. Again, remember one more thing. If you are in a shared storage, SAN and all, VMware ESX Server 4.1 and backward does not support more than 4 cloning at a time. But now that is been improved. I think you can do at least around 8 clones per ESX server now. But you know that when you do 8 cloning, cloning is basically, it is actually reading from the original disk and writing to the destination disk to make the clones, right? So when you have 8 or 16 cloning is happening, that means a lot of read and write activities are happening at the storage level. It could create a lot of storage alarms. It could create a lot of storage latencies, and there may be a whole lot of problems. So if you do not have a very powerful latest technology storage, I strongly recommend not to do more than 2 or 3 cloning at a time. If you do more than that, it may not be a good idea. But I've seen that in ESX 4.1 and all, even if you start 10 clones, Vcenter will only do the first 4 at a time, and it will put the remaining ones in a queue mode. When the first one gets over, it will start the next one. So it will do it on a queue basis. Okay. So that is cold clone and hot clone. Clear? So I'm not going to do any cold clone. You can try that. A VM which is powered off is called as a cold clone, and if you do a VM which is powered on, it is a hot clone, and that is the customization. So let this clone happen. I wanted to show you how that customization work. We can look into this clone underscore Windows 2008 VM. I will power on the VM. I will show you how the customization actually happening. You got to wait and watch for it. It takes some time. Automatically it will change the time zone, everything. You can see that when this gets completed. So while that is happening, let me take a step back and try to explain what is the thick provisioning and thin provisioning, things like that. So here is the thing. Let me quickly show you what it is, and then we will go and talk about some of the details about it. I think there is nothing much, but just you need to understand it. So when you create a VM, I'm going to create a new VM here. Let's call it as a go to customization, custom, and let's call it as Sri. If you don't select anything, it will actually go to the discovered virtual machine. Okay, Arvind, typically how much time it takes to clone a server means I think it's a wrong question, because it depends on the size of your server. If you can tell me your size of your server, then that is what it is. So I don't know. It depends on many factors. The size of your server, your storage, your network, and many factors are there. So I don't know. So here is the thing. I'm going to select this storage, local storage, to create this new VM. Just remember, we have 261 GB free space is there. So that is a data store. Let us draw that picture also. So I have a data store which is 261 GB, or let us say 200. Let us take that number, 261 GB free space is there, and 62 GB is used. So I'm just taking an example. Let's say in this data store, 62 GB is already used. Now we have this much free space here, and this is where I'm going to create a new VM, right? So I'm selecting that storage, click next. These are the different versions of VM. I told you, ESX4 has this version 7 and 8. These are different versions. Always select the latest version if possible. This is all you know. I'm not going to do any of that things. Processor here, memory. I'm not going to make 4 GB, because when you power on, it's going to take 4 GB from the storage. Correct? If you have 4 GB RAM, it is going to take 4 GB when you power on for the swap file. To avoid that, I'm just putting 1 GB, so that when I power on, it takes only 1 GB from my storage. Network isolated, I don't care about that. And this is the thing, I create a new virtual disk. So we are talking about the thick provisioning, thin provisioning part of it. So I'm going to talk about create a new disk. I'm going to create a 20 GB drive. If I create a 20 GB disk, what will be the free space on this data store after that? $241, correct? Let's not do that decimal part. Let's talk about 261. 261 minus 20. So it's 241 GB, correct? Satya, that's correct, right? Yeah. So let's do that. So I'm selecting the option called thick provisioned lazy zero. It is actually, lazy zeroed and eager zeroed. You can read that, So here is the thing. Okay, you can read that. Thick provision lazy zeroed means creates a virtual disk in a default thick format. Space required for the virtual disk allocated when the virtual disk is created. Data remaining on the physical device is not erased during the erasure. I'll talk about it, but is zeroed out on demand at a later time of the thing. I'll explain this. You don't have to worry about reading this. So thick provisioned lazy zeroed means this is what it is going to do. I'm going to create this disk now. Finish. Now you see this space will go off. Watch carefully here. Okay, it didn't refresh it. It will refresh. So I'm going to refresh this. Is that correct? Our math is correct, right? 241 GB. Now, let's go back to the paper here. So I created a new VM, and that VM So this data store means this is storage. There may be some data there. There may be something there. We don't know. It is just it is empty. That is what we all say. But when you say empty, you may not see anything, but there will be data already there on this disk. In that disk, storage, it's a magnetic storage, right? So there is data there, but you won't see any folders, files and all, but it is there. The blocks, every small blocks, it may be 64 KB blocks, maybe 1 MB blocks, I don't know. Depending on, in VMware data store, these are 1 MB blocks. So each block has sub blocks and all, don't need, okay, whatever it is, but there will be data inside the storage at this point, but you don't see it. For you, it is a free space. So we created that 20 GB hard drive. I'm not going to put all the thing, but I'm just going to put that 20 GB hard drive. It actually taken that 20 GB free space. So now you're going to see only 141 GB here. So this is that 20 GB it has taken. It is a thick provision disk. It has taken that 20 GB, but it has not. Is there any data in this disk now? So this is your 20 GB disk of your new VM. Is there any data inside this? There is no data in it. That is what you need to understand. It has reserved 20 GB there, but there is nothing happened here. 20 GB has taken. Now, look into it carefully. I started the VM. I'm going to install Windows Server 2003 into this VM. And I'm installing the stuff. As I'm installing the stuff, let us say I installed completed, and it took around 10 GB to finish. So 10 GB of this 20 GB is now has real data. That time, it really writes data onto the original disk. That is the time it is really writing. So what is there inside here? This is somebody's old data is there, but it is not erased that. It is still that somebody's old data is there. But here, now your new operating system data is there. Are you getting what I'm trying to tell you? So this is what is called thick provision, lazy zeroed means. But how much free space is available on your data store now? It is still 141 because this is not counted because this is reserved. The whole 40 GB is reserved. So that is thick provision, lazy zeroed means. Yeah, you can say 141 plus 10, but that 10 is not counted across. It is already being given to that VM. It is being taken off from the free space. So you will never see that. If you put that plus 10, then you go to really explain. Actually, that's the thing. Don't put that. That will be a confusing thing. All right, so that is done. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the second case. I'm going to create another new VM. This time I'm going to call it as 3001. Selecting the same storage. Let me give 1 GB to this also. I came to the disk. I'm going to give 20 GB. I'm going to say thick provision eager zeroed. Okay. Satya, wait man, let me finish this one by one. Okay. Thick provision eager zeroed. Next, and finish. Now what happens to the storage here? Let's see. Is it going to be 241 or what will be the thing if I refresh it? It is going to be 121 GB. Sorry, 221 GB, correct? That means when you used eager zeroed, it actually selected again the same case, 20 GB is gone. So this is that 20 GB, but when you said eager zeroed, what exactly it has done is it reserved this 20 GB, but not only that, it writes a 0 bytes onto this disk. The entire disk is written with something called as zeros. That is something like a formatting. I don't know, formatting means what is going on in your mind, but it is right. It writes every blocks, it writes some zeros. That means it wipes the original information and put a 0 there, 0 there, 0 there. That means it wipes off. There are some disk deletion softwares in my company and all we use because it's financials and all. We, you know that you delete, you think that, okay, I formatted a disk, now there is no data. That is not true, okay? People all think that, and you throw that hard disk. By using good technologies, people can still retrieve the data. So believe that, don't try to do anything, oh, I deleted everything. No, that's not true. We do something called BC wipe, that is a tool. BC wipe writes these kind of zeros around 50 times, one on top of the other on every disk, and that is how we do the wiping. When I do that 50 times, writing zeros on top of zeros on top of zeros, then you will lose the entire data. Then even if you get it to a hacker or whatever it is, he never can retrieve the data. But if you just do a formatting or if you just do a delete, oh, my disk does not have anything, you throw the disk. If I get it, and if I know how to get that data back, I can definitely get it back. Your data is not really gone. Your data is still there on the hard disk. But now with the thick eager zero, what I did is I wrote zeros to everything. Now I have taken 20 GB, but I also make sure that I write that this is the real thick. That means you reserved it and you reserved the whole place. It's just like you bought a plot and you put a fence and then you cultivate something there. The earlier one was you bought a plot and you put a fence on top of it. That's it. You didn't do anything inside. But here you bought the plot, you put the fence, and you just made everything clean inside. That is what this is. Clear? That is thick provision. And so there is, if I go back the detail into it, doing thick provision eager disk, thick provision, the eager zeroed is actually better, because now when you're installing the operating system, every time it writes a new file, it does not have to write zero first. Now it can write straight. So thick provision, the eager zeroed is definitely better with respect to write, but it may be a very small percentage. When companies do these mathematical calculations and they come up with different graphs and all, they say, okay, this has high performance, this is low performance, things like that. But I don't know how much it is really going to play. But again, definitely there will be a improvement when there is already zeroed and you're writing to that, and there is nothing, because if there is nothing there, then when you write your operating system or when you copy a file, it has to first wipe off that data using zero. I mean, it has to zeroed out that first and then write. In this case, it's already zeroed out, so it does not have to write. Any questions on this thick zero, eager zeroed and lazy zeroed? Lazy zero does not do a zero, it does the zero at the time the real data is writing. Eager zeroed means it writes the zero ahead of time. Okay? Any questions, anybody? Is it clear, guys? Do you understanding what I'm saying, or I'm just talking here? Right in. Okay, good. All right, one person is enough for me. All right, so that's good. So that means let's go to the next one. Thin provisioning. Now I'm going to create, so I have 221 GB here. I'm going to create a new VM called Sri002. Selecting the same storage, same format, nothing is changing. 1 GB RAM, new disk, and I'm going to select thin provisioning, and I'm going to use a 20 GB hard drive now. Next, next, and finish. Now what will be the balance here? So I'm going to refresh it, 201. Okay. I'm going to refresh it. Let's see. It is showing 221. We can refresh it one more time. It is still showing 221 GB. That is because we created the third VM's disk as a thin provision disk. When you create a thin provision disk, it does not reserve the space. It creates a disk 20 GB and your VM can think that there is 20 GB, but it has not reserved any space. It has not written any zeros, nothing. So absolutely nothing is done here. You created a disk. Actually, there is a small metadata is there. It actually creates probably that red line, whatever it is. I'm just putting it as like this. It might have created probably a 1 KB disk file. It has created. Let us go and look at that file, 3002. If you look at that VM and you go to here and you go to 3002, you can see that here is a VM. It's actually, no, actually it's true, 0 KB in size. But look at the provisioned size. This is what Raiden asked yesterday. That means that disk is provisioned for 20 KB, 20 GB, but it is currently using only 0 KB. That means that disk can grow up to 20 GB as the user. But when you look from that VM, when you look from that, let's say 32002 has an operating system. When you look from there, you're going to see a 20 GB hard drive. But in the real backend, it is using only that small amount, how much ever the operating system is using. That is what thin provisioning is. Yeah. That is correct. It can grow only up to here. But the good part is, even though it is 20 GB, it is only taken 0 KB now. Let us say now I'm going to the VM. I started the VM. I see a 20 GB hard drive, but we know that it is nothing. It is free. And you are going to install Windows 2008 operating system in it. You install Windows 2008. Now, this disk has really taken 10 GB. And it is still have 10 GB free space. But from your operating system, when you look here in this VM now, you see that it has a 20 GB hard drive. In that 20 GB, 10 GB is used and 10 GB is free space. But in a real storage, let us say I'm a storage administrator, did it use that 20 GB? No, I still have space here. You getting? That is the advantage. Now let me show you one more thing. That is thin provisioning means. So thin provisioning is a big blessing when you have shortage in storage and you want to meet immediate need. I know in my office, we have many departments that are using servers. When they put requests, they say, oh, Deepu, I need a 50 GB C drive, and then we need a 200 GB D drive. Why the heck you want 200 GB? No, the vendor says that we got to put that, we have this template, that. Okay, fine. Because business is saying they are paying money for it, they are taking it. I cannot say anything because it's a chargeback policy in our company. This is fine. If I give them thick provision disk, I need immediately, today, I need 250 GB SAN storage. Just imagine if 10 people ask like that, you're talking about 2.5 terabyte storage. And I'm 100% sure that he's not going to use that for the next 2 years. And I have examples where I have seen these people, when they said they need this, I have seen that they never use more than 50 GB. 150 GB is free space. Luxury, sometimes people use that for backups and all. This is what it is. If I could have used the thin provisioning option, I have a big storage here. When this guy asked me, hey, I need 250, I could have given him this, you use this thing, you use this thing, that's it. But actually he thinks that he got all this space, but he's not getting, he's only getting this much space. But he's using, it will take, fine, but I will be monitoring my storage growth. I know what is happening on my data store. If my data store is coming up to here, at that point, I know, okay, this is a thin provision disk, it can grow big, it could fill up my disk. At that point, I may either expand this or I may migrate this whole VM from here to some other place. I can do many options. But that is what thin provision can do. Thin provision has very big blessings. It's a big use if you are using in large environments. But again, you got to be monitoring when you're using thin provisioning, because let us say you have many VMs, you can do that. I'll show you another example. So let us say in this particular hard disk now, how much free space we have now. If the blue part is 10 GB, if this blue part is 10 GB, how much free space is there now on this storage? Can anybody tell me? If the blue part is actually 10 GB data and that thin provision VM is 20 GB disk, what will be? You will have actually 211 GB free spaces there, correct? Because you are not used, correct? 211 is there. Now what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to create a new virtual machine. Going to call it as Session15. I'm selecting the storage. How much free space I have? 221. Because in real life we didn't fill it. Okay, so actually I have 221 GB. Next. Now I'm going to create a 400 GB drive. Can I create a 400 GB drive? Okay. There are only 3 people responding to this class. Okay, this is very bad. Jean, are you listening to it? Sujan, Shri, there's no people responding. Man, this is the first time I'm seeing a class where there is, you guys are not talking. That's fine. See, absolutely there is no need for me to teach all these things. Okay, nobody teaches. Even you go for VMware class, they don't do all these things like what I'm doing. When I'm doing like that, if I don't get that response, please believe me, I will not be teaching in this way. And I cannot do like that. That's the thing. I need you guys to respond to me, talk to me, and ask questions. No questions here. Once in a while, like from a sleep, somebody asks a question. There are 100 things I could have talked, but you have to ask. You have to research and come back a question. If you want, okay, Deepu, I told you yesterday, I'm going to talk about cloning. I'm going to talk about this. Did anybody prepare and came? You could have asked many questions in cloning. I finished cloning. That's a different story. Okay, see, that's why I'm saying if you ask, you get it. Otherwise, I cannot share that information. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to create a forum. There is no need for me to show this thing actually, because I have that passion and I have that dedication. That's why I'm trying to do this. So please understand. Okay. I don't have any reason to show what I'm doing here. You don't even know what I'm doing here. So I'm going to create a 400 GB hard drive here, but I'm going to thick provisioning. I click next, it's giving me an error message. You cannot create because you only have 221 GB. But if I select in provisioning, I can create it. It's giving me that warning, but I can still proceed and create that disk. I can create that VM 3005 with 400 GB hard drive. Look here. This VM has a 400 GB hard drive. If you go here, edit setting, you can see that it has a 400 GB hard drive. Even though it is a 400 GB hard drive, it has not taken even a single space in the storage, because if you refresh it, you can see that it is still 221 GB because it's a thin provision disk. When is it going to eat all this space? As you start using it. If I am confident that Sri is not going to use all this 221 GB for the next 6 months or next 1 month or next 2 months, I don't have to worry about it. So Sri's condition, he is going to use this like this. He might, I know he's going to install operating system. He may take 10 GB, or maybe he may take 20 GB, this much. But I still have space. I can create more VMs here until I buy the new storage. So thin provisioning, that is the real advantage of thin provisioning. But the problem with thin provisioning is, let us say I went to sleep and I am not bothering about it. Sri don't know whether I have given him thin provision or not. I'm not going to tell Sri, hey Sri, you know what, I gave you thin provision this, so let me know when you fill it. I don't have to tell, I cannot tell that. For Sri, his computer has a 400 GB hard drive. This is the trick. Now, if Sri decided, okay, I got my computer, I have 400 GB, let me just download some stuff, and he is going to fill that 400 GB. What happens to Sri? When he reaches 221 GB, this is full. And then he tried to add stuff into this hard disk, he's going to get error message saying that disk is full. Now Sri will think, what the heck is this? I can still see 200 GB free space, but I cannot add. It is saying there is disk is full. In Sri's operating system, is saying disk is full. But when he's looking at the disk properties, he's saying 200 GB free space. He will come to you. And you know what the problem is. So you don't want Sri to come to you. You want to monitor it before Sri gets into that state. So you should have proper monitoring of your data store when you have thin provision disks, because thin provision disks can grow anytime. You don't know whether Sri is going to fill it, or you don't know X or Y is going to fill it. And you cannot track all the users. Only thing you can do is track your storage growth. If it reaches 80%, send me an image message. If it reaches 95%, send me a critical alert. So if you are not confident and if you are not comfortable configuring proper monitoring and watching that monitor alarms very carefully, don't go for thin provision. If you have a good team, if you have a network operations and NOC operation team that can monitor your environment 24/7, sure, you can go with thin provisioning. There is absolutely no problem. You can save money, you can save things, but if you don't loosely take that, it could create problems. Okay? So that is thick, thin, and that provisioning. So here is the thing that Sri's machine clone is completed. This was the machine we cloned, and we also ran the customization here. Not ran, we configured it. So I'm going to open this VM and let us watch this VM for 2 minutes. I'm going to power on that clone VM. Now what is going to happen is this VM is going to start. You watch for it, wait for a minute or two or sometimes 3 minutes. You can see that it is automatically getting rebooted. At the time you can see that the sysprep is configuring it. It changes all the values, everything. So watch for it. This is what a sysprep, that customization wizard is going to do for it. And it also changes the name of the machine. It changes the time zone and things like that. We will see now. Any questions, anybody? Monitor what? We used hot clone, Santosh. So we used hot clone because that VM is still running. You can see that Sri_001 is still running there. Okay. So the VM is now up. It is the clone of Windows 2008_Sri_100. The new name of the VM is clone_Windows 2008. We don't know what the name of the operating system inside it. I don't know what Sri has given to it. But I'm sure that after this customization, the name will be changed to clone_Windows 2008_Sri_001. I have a doubt whether underscore is supported in Windows 2008 or not. I think it does not. We will look into it. It is not doing anything now. Just wait for it. It takes a little time for the customization to kick in. Sometimes I see that it takes 2-3 minutes to kick in. Okay, so let us watch carefully, and you can see that the VM is getting rebooted automatically. Coming to other question, I think Raiden was asking some other question about, what was the question? What type of cloning do we use now? Typically, what kind of servers are you used for different provisioning? I don't understand your question, Arvind. Typically, what kind of provisioning, different provisioning? I don't understand what your question is, Arvind. So, Raiden, what was your question? Yeah, I'll talk about that. let this get completed and then we'll talk.
Okay, Devo, one quick question.
Yep.
So, we have seen that cloning in a SIM switch, it's got IP conflict or something.
Look here, 1 minute. Look here what is happening on that server. It is shutting down. I didn't do anything. It is doing automatically. So now you watch carefully what happens. Okay, Sujan, I will answer your question. Let us watch this because I cannot do this all the time.
Okay.
So now look at it. We didn't do anything. It cloned. The clone came up good, and then now automatically the customization is happening here. So if you look carefully, now you can do that VMware image customization in progress. Setup is updating registry. It is doing the sysprep and all that kind of changes it is making to that operating system.
Hi Deepu. Okay, while we are cloning in the Linux environment, we have to change host names and IP addresses actually.
Yes.
But it is in Windows 2008. I think it is automatically changing the IP address and the host name and SID, right?
In Linux also you have that customization. You can use that.
Okay.
So now it did the sysprep actually. You can see that the command came up and went. It's done.
Deepu, quick question. Can you hear me, Deepu?
Okay, yeah, I saw your question. Will cloning copy the application bits if there are any on the server? Come on, Fanny, what you are asking that question? I'm surprised. Cloning means you are making an exact copy, right? So if you have application there, whether it is MSN Messenger or Google Talk or anything is there, it is an image of your server. So whatever is there, it will come up. It is exact copy you are making. It's a disk level copy. It is not that you're copying some application and files. No, it is actually an image is taking. Cloning is an image. It is the same clone. It is an exact thing. It is actually duplicating the actual. See, all your VM's data. If what you are seeing in this Windows 2008 operating system, the my computer, that thing, whatever. Okay, that is all sitting where inside a one VMDK file, correct? Or in your case, it's a VHD file, correct? I'm just duplicating that VHD file. That's it. I'm just duplicating that disk and attaching it to another computer and starting it. So it will come with every.
The reason why I was asking this question was I was wondering if you have a VM with some issues on it. Can you use cloning?
If you have a VM with issues, when you say VM means I believe you are talking about a guest OS with issues.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
If you clone it, it is exactly going to come with the issues.
Okay. So we cannot use cloning to even though it recreates the VM, it also recreates issues. So okay.
That is why we are cloning. We are cloning to recreate that issue so that you can troubleshoot in an isolated world without touching the original server. You can troubleshoot. That's the whole purpose here. Cloning is an exact copy.
All right. Okay.
You understand, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the VM is ready. I'm logging in with the welcome one password because that was the password I give. So now it is logging. Let us check a couple of things. Sometimes it may not work everything, but I've seen, but you got to troubleshoot it. But let's see, I hope it will change the name and at least the time zone. Those are the two things we can look at now. Wait, let's finish this. Hold on. All right, see here, it actually changed the name, but as I said, it didn't take that underscore. See that? It called it as clone Windows 2008 3, things like that. You see that? Look at the time zone. It changed to Hawaii. So all this happened as part of the customization. Okay. So you can do more, that the license is being changed. You can change the owner, ABC and Deepu and all those things might have changed. I don't know where to look at it, but it should be all changed in wherever it is. And also if you wanted to join a domain, it would have joined the domain. If you wanted to change it, a static IP address, it would have done all that. So that's how it is. So this is what exactly customization is, and this is what a real clone process is. Okay. And one thing we did now is a mistake is we just bought this server also into the production network. See, that's why even though I'm doing this mistake, you should never do that because you should always bring it into an isolated network. Now it's going to create IP conflicts there. So to avoid that problem, I'm actually going to power off this VM, okay? Or let me power it off and delete it. I'm just leaving it as powered off. So whenever, now you know what thin provisioning is, correct? And you know the advantage of thin provisioning is. So let me ask you something here. Let us say there is 221 GB free space here. And I'm telling all of you to build 2 VMs with 40 GB hard disk and install Windows 2008. You cannot do that because there is no space. But I am sure you can all do that if you use thin provisioning. You can build 16 or 20 VMs with 40 GB hard drive and you can in fact install. It may take up to 200 GB, but still you can possibly do that, right? So going forward, when you are building servers, always make sure you use thin provisioning so that more people can build, because I don't have too much storage. I only have a 2.5 terabyte storage altogether in my environment. So if you use sensibly by using this thick and thin provisioning and all, thin provisioning, we could build more VMs. I mean, I will not be in a position to explain this earlier, but now you understand it. Okay, that's it. So go ahead and go ahead to your question. Yes. Good. All right. So that's fine. Now you've been asking that for some time. So let me do that part. That is something either today or tomorrow I have to take. So I'm going to 10:16. I'm going to talk about that now. So VMware vCenter server, if you click on the root of that vCenter server, you can see there is something called as alarms. So first to do that is, before doing that, let us go to the vCenter server setting here. Go to the mail tab and configure it mail.dashcase.com VMware alerts or vSphere. Dashcase.com. I'm just sending this. This is my SMTP server. I mean, no, I don't have anything, but this is something you have to configure first if you really want to get alerts. This is something you have to configure. So if you're in a company, you got to talk to your networking team and understand what is your SMTP server. Said that. I think everybody knows that. So you go to cluster and go to the root of it, and you click on the alarms. You can see that there are already some triggered alarms are already there. It says the network uplink here. Forget about that. You click on the definitions here. You can see a lot of alerting here. Lot of counters for monitoring. This is what is used for monitoring. A Vcenter is a very powerful thing. You know, over the year they have improved a lot. There are many ways you can alert many things. Again, in companies like us, we are not satisfied with this. We are using third-party product. For example, we are using two products. You know, there is one product from VMware itself is there, which is called as Vcenter Operations Manager, VCOps or VCOPS. That is what some people say. It's a very powerful monitoring, capacity planning, and trending tool from VMware itself. We did the evaluation of that. Then there is another product called vKernel. That is also being brought over by Dell, and now it is part of same kernel, vkernel.com. This is another very powerful control automation analysis tool. I did a lot of research on this product. There is another one is the Quest product called, see, why I'm showing all this is for you guys to read about it. If you want, you can go. Yesterday we talked about Quest product. We talked about vRanger yesterday. vFoglight is another product from Quest. For them, we're using this in our company. At last, our evaluation, we decided to go with vFoglight. vFoglight is a very powerful thing. Actually, Foglight is the main product. Foglight is very powerful product countering physical and virtual machines. vFoglight is defined just for virtual infrastructure. Very powerful tool for monitoring and doing that. You can use a lot more monitoring and analysis using that. That is optional. You don't need to know that. But when you go for interview, if you can tell that you know vFoglight, you are familiar with vFoglight, sure, it's an advantage. So if you are familiar, if you are interested, if you have time, please go and read about vFoglight. It's not a rocket science there. If you know VMware, you can easily read and understand what is vFoglight, what it is. You don't need to know everything. You need to know what it is it used for, how to work on it, what are the things it can provide. Those is enough. In an interview, nobody is going to ask you 100 things. They're going to ask you, okay, are you familiar with vFoglight? Yes. What is it used for? What do you do with it? We do it for these things. Good. That's it. That's it. I'm not going to ask you how do you configure an alarm in vFoglight, how do you trigger that. No, I don't think anybody asked. Hope this is same as the original Foglight. It is very similar to the original Foglight. It is using the same binaries and architecture, but it is specifically designed for virtual infrastructure. It's called as vFoglight. So it is actually a if you know Foglight, you know vFoglight. It is same product. They all look same, they work same, and pretty much vFoglight is designed just for virtual infrastructure. Yeah, that's it. It's a very powerful tool, very good tool. I did the evaluation of these three products, and then I decided, or I liked vFoglight, and we bought it. It's a very complex product, but that's another problem. It is a very complicated product, but it is very powerful. If you know how to use it, and if you have a dedicated resource in your company, probably it's a full-time job, but in our office, we have it there. We use it for some stuff. Okay, so that is Foglight and all, but that is not needed. You have vCenter. vCenter itself has so many alerts. It can be configured. I'm not going to go through each one of it. Everything is clearly mentioned here. I'm just trying to show you certain things here. For example, host memory usage. There are many things. Network uplink redundancy lost. This is a good one. So we have in my office also, we are not configured all these alarms. We configured only few of them that we think are important. Okay. So there are many things that we need to know. For example, network uplink redundancy lost. That means if you have two uplinks to a switch, I want to know if a network thing is fault. So I can open that. This is how it is. So the alarm is by default, it is enabled. Triggers, these are the thing, it is going to look at it. Action. When you come to the action, you can say, okay, send an email notification. As I said yesterday, you can send SNMB notification, you can send many things. You can reboot the server, you can make many actions, but that is not I want. I wanted to get an email notification. Okay. Deepu@dascase.com. So now what happens is, when this trigger happens, or when this particular thing got a network uplink redundancy is lost, I am going to get an email from this. It is going to send me an email. It is going to repeat that same process every 5 minutes. If you don't want that to be with too many emails, you can put it to 30 minutes. It will send you 30 minutes. Now, do you want this from when it becomes green to red? Means it's an alert. That means a critical issue. You want to repeat it, or you want one email? Do you want only one email, or do you want multiple times? Network redundancy lost, I'm okay with one message. I just need to get one email. It is a redundancy problem because the other network is still okay. I don't care. So I just selected one to. Do you want an email when it becomes normal again? Yes, I want one more. So now it is going to show me when it becomes from a warning to a state, a critical state, it is going to send me an email. And then when it becomes normal, that means when the connection is restored back, it is going to send me another email. Okay, so that is what it is. You showed different place to configure SMTP. No, I didn't show any place. What I showed was SMTP was that place. That is the only place I showed you how to create SMTP. Okay, so this is what it is. So I created that now. Host memory usage. Same another one. Same thing, it is going to look. Now, a memory usage. You want to know how much memory an ESX server is using. Do you want an alarm when you want to send a warning alarm when it is crossing 90% memory? And if it is 5 minutes, if the memory usage is 90% and it is staying for 5 minutes, send me a warning message. If it is 95% and is staying for 10 minutes, make it into a critical alarm and send me an email. Again, I am coming here to the action. In the action panel, I can send notification. I can say, okay, send it to IT_operations@dascase.com. Now, the system is going to send an email. Whenever any ESX server crosses that threshold, it is going to send that email message. Like that, you can do it for everything. Everything is detailed here. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I just wanted to show you. So this is exactly what it is. You understand it, right? Licensing. You know that your ESX server has all these licenses. I told you buy license in bundle. 20 CPUs. The VMware licenses are based on sockets, right? So you can buy 20 sockets, 100 sockets like that. But as you add on more ESX servers, the license count will be reduced. Do you want an alert when the license count reaches 10 or 20 or 5? You can do that by using license inventory monitoring. Data store usage on this. This is the most critical one, and this is the one we were talking. Without that, you cannot live in a world of VMware. Data store usage. This is the one we are saying. If you are using thin provisioning, you should use this no matter what. Triggers. If the data store usage is more than 75%, I don't go with that. I might probably change that to 85%. Because when you say 85%, you have to change this here. That's why. Okay, I'm putting this critical as 95% and the warning as 85%. Why? Because when you have a terabyte of storage, 85% is a lot of storage. When you have 85% full, means you still have another 10-20 GB free space is there. If your data store size is small, yeah, maybe you may want to reduce your thing. So here what I'm saying is, when my data store usage is more than 85%, that means when the data store get filled up to 85%, whether it is thin provision or what, it is going to send me a warning message. And if that and you can also say the condition length if you want actually. Oh, here you cannot do that. Okay. It's not condition length, it is just a fill, right? Okay. and then it becomes 95% more, it is going to send you email. So you can do that. Again, here there are some options. How often you want to send that message, every 5 minutes or not. Actions, you can do that in the actions. This is very important here because it is critical, because it is email, it is storage. If the storage get filled, you may see outages. Your VMs may start not responding. It may become froze. So you may definitely want to monitor the storage no matter what. So that's the email address. Now I want to know when it is from. Green is a healthy state. Maybe it is 75% full, 80% full, it is still green. But when it touches 85%, that means it changed from green to yellow, send me one message. From yellow to critical, it is very critical. This is where I have to be monitored. So I will say repeat every 5 minutes. Because I'm getting emails, I will know that I have to look at it. Either me or whoever is getting, they will know that it is a very critical state. It is going to send you every 5 minutes messages that, hey, this data store is full, this data store is full. And when it backs to normal, and you can see again one message. Now let me go back to the triggers, and I'm going to make warning message to 90%. And alarm to 98. No, I'm going to make it to 60% just to show you the result here. And this one I'm going to make it to 50%. This one I'm going to make it to 60%. Okay. I am just saying globally, if the data store is filled more than 50%, give me a warning message. If the data store is more than 60%, give me an alert message. And I'm going to apply this. Now you go to data stores. You can see many alarms there. See, some of the data stores are showing already alarms. So this one, let us look at it. Local storage 95. Why is it showing an alarm? It's a red alarm. Let's look at it. Okay, it's saying local storage. What is the thing? What is the alarm triggered here? Data store usage. It is showing that it is more than 75%. So you go to the summary tab, you can see that the free space is only 43% GB. It is a big disk, it's 131 GB. It is only 43, so it is reaching that limit. If you make this local data store, you go to the alarm, you can see that it is again data store usage. It is saying it's a warning message. That means it is probably more than 50% full now. If you go here, you can see that it is more than 50%. I can remove these two alarms in a minute. If I go here, all I need to do is come here, go to the triggers, change that value to 95, and change this warning message value to 85. Okay? Say OK. Now you go back to the storage. You will see that all your storage is healthy now. Did you understand? Is that clear? This is how you do monitoring. Right? And it's clear for you. So this is how you monitor, and this is how you have to configure your server. You can do a lot more here, but I'm just saying, that is not the scope of my class. I cannot spend time to explain everything. But you can do many things. But I just wanted to quickly touch base some of the most important alarms which you may want to know. Network coupling redundancy is important. Host memory usage is important. License inventory is important. Virtual machine memory usage. I don't do that because you may have thousands of VMs, and if you try to monitor it, you will be only trying to monitor the alarms coming from your VM. So I would strongly suggest not to do that if there is, otherwise, I don't know. You can use it for a VM. These things, virtual machine CPU usage, no. These things, distributed switches and all, I don't think. License capacity monitoring is a good word. HA, host status, is a good one. It's actually, we learn about HA. It's a clustering feature. HA, failover in progress, is a good one. You cluster, the data store cluster is out of space. These are all good ones. Network connectivity lost is a good one because this is always creates problem with host. Host CPU usage and host memory usage I always go for. You may want to know what is your CPU usage and memory usage of your host. If it is alarming, then that means you need to increase the ring, or you may want to load balance. Host connection failure is important. There are some hardware. You remember, if you go back to my first class, remember there is a SIM module within the ESXi, right? It can do hardware monitoring, isn't it? I told you about that. In old days, you have to use HP SIM, but now with ESXi, you don't have any service console, but the VM kernel itself is having the SIM, the common information model. So it can do a lot of hardware monitoring here. You can see that the host hardware voltage, hardware power status, hardware system board status, the battery status. If you want, you can do that. But if you have a proper HP monitoring and all, you don't need to do that. But it is up to you whether you want to configure it. Data store usage. So these are some of the important things. But you can see that all these VM thing here, if you want to do that for a particular VM, you can again go to a VM and you can do that. See, these are only the alarms that are specific to a VM. So you can do it like that. You can also create your own custom alarms if you want, okay? You can call it your own name and you can trigger it for virtual machine. You can see that here for virtual machine. You can do that. You can also go to the data store, and now you click on the data store and then definition, sorry, click on the data store and you go to the alarms and go to the definition. You can see the definition, the alarms that are only applicable to data stores. If you go to networking and you do that, you can see alarms that are specific. No, there's no alarms here. Okay. I think it should be here. Okay. But it is showing all of them. Okay. So anyway, so that way you can see all the alarms. So there is a lot of alarms there. You may want to definitely look at it and get familiarized with it. But the important thing is don't configure everything. Use only what you really need. It works really well. In my office, actually, we depend on these alarms a lot for our monitoring needs. Any questions?
Deepu,
Yep, go ahead.
are these settings can be globally set up, like that applies to all ESX servers?
Yes, that is what it is. So when you do it here, it's a global setting.
Oh, okay.
When you do that here, it's a global setting. If you want to have a custom one for a particular thing, then you have to click on that particular host, go to alarms, go to the definitions, and you create your own new alarm and set for that host. That is the only way. Otherwise, if you do it at here, it is a global setting. Any host, it will be done.
Okay, got it. I didn't see that you selected the.
Yep.
I was always seeing the selection was on each individual ESX. I thought it's for each one. Okay, got it.
Okay. So, okay, so that's it. I think that is clear, right? This is something I thought of talking later, but it's covered at the right time, so that's fine. So you understand, but the thing is, guys, when I show you this looks very easy, okay? But you have to go here, try to create something and try to see that in Explore. At least you create the data store usage and see the values, create your own one alarm. There may be many things. And again, don't come back to me for all these questions, but you should definitely use your own sense of, expertise in and searching something. I'm just telling you, don't come back to me with these questions of, hey, Deepu, I don't know how to do that. Actually, VMware, vSphere, alarms. There is actually a PDF itself VMware is having to configure, to create alarms, PDF. More fun with vSphere PDF. This is actually a beautiful document. This PDF, this has a lot of information about different ways of configuring alarms. The alarms are, when you say, it is simple, but there is a lot of things involved in it. You can do a lot of customization and things like that. So it's not that something that you can do in 2 minutes. You go to read and understand, but one basic thing is to understand it. But then you can always go alarm trigger type. What is it? What is new in 4.1? But 4.1 is changed now. It is 5.1. So it will show you exactly how to do that. All these details are there. How to configure. So there are companies make full documentation how to do that. This is exactly what I was explained. So you can see all these alarms. So you can see the alarms are coming in the thing, how it will look like. There is a lot of documentation available, and there are many people has written links to do that. So that is the thing. So how do I give the link? Try that. It should work mostly. Or you just go to Google and do the same thing. You will see that PDF, right? More fun with vSphere. Yeah. Go ahead. Right. No, I didn't get it. What is that? Repeat your question. Uh-huh. No, I mean, there is a lot of options. That's also a good question. So if you can go to the data stores, data stores itself, you can create different folders. I will call it as, here like this, local storage. And then I move all my local storage into that. And I can create iSCSI storage, things like that. Now you click on the Docker storage here, and you can have your own custom, you can actually set, alarms. In the alarms, you can definitions. Don't do this one. You create your own custom here. In that case, you have to disable this one, okay? You cannot disable it here. You have to go and disable it at the top level. But here you can come here, you can create your own alarm. Let's call it my local storage underscore custom. I'm just doing it. So you can do it here and you select data stores, go to the triggers, and here you add. You can create your own custom. You getting what I'm trying to show you here, right? So you can create your own custom rules for each group, and then you can monitor it the way you want. If you want it for a particular data store, there may be cases. For example, sometimes there are some data stores that will be like 99% full all the time. For example, it may be that data store is only having 1 VM. We have a case for a one data store. It's 1 terabyte data store. In that data store, there is only 1 VMDK file. The size of that VMDK file is 999 GB. So there is literally only 1 GB free space in that data store. That data store is holding one big VMDK file, which is a terabyte VMDK. If I have 75% or 85%, what happens from that data store? That data store will be alerting all the time, correct? So I want to exclude that. I can exclude that data store, or I can create a custom monitoring for that. Got it? Okay. You use That is what I'm saying. You use that the disk monitoring. You configure your data store capacity thing, and monitor it. When it triggers, you have to. That means it is time for you to add more storage or more VMs or something. You have to do that. So it all depends on your data store usage, not capacity. Actually, it's called as data store usage. There is another one called data store usage. This the one. All right, guys. So quickly, I know we have time. 10:36. It's 10:45. So I thought of doing templates today, but I think that's fine. We will do templates tomorrow. So we'll stop here, guys, today. Even I have work tomorrow. So there is no class tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday. There is no class, but you can practice if the environment is up and running. Please do that. I will be sending meeting details, class details for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and for coming days. Probably only on Monday morning or maybe late Sunday. Because I'm going to be busy next 2 days for a conference. I'll be in Philadelphia for next 3 days. I won't be at home also. So, but definitely there is class on Monday. Okay. No class Sunday. And write and give this today's recording to, if possible, to Baron, or explain to him what we taught, because these are all very, very important points. Okay. And going forward, guys, let me tell you, every class is very important. Every class is a different topic. Yesterday we were fully talking about snapshots. Today we talked about clones, different things we talked about, in provisioning, many things. Tomorrow next class we're going to talk about, templates, and probably I will get into some other topics too. Most probably I'll start the clustering, vMotion. So everything is very important. If you miss class, it will be a loss. Okay. Gene, you can talk tomorrow, man. I'm tired now. Let's talk tomorrow. Okay. So that's it, guys. So thanks again, guys. Good night. Aravind, did you talk to him or Satya? If you can give me a call, it will be great. Okay, I just want to talk to you about something else. Give me a call if possible, or else tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Good night.
The